Ever wonder why your favorite song sounds so big and right up in your face? A limiter is the main tool that you'll be using when mastering your music to make it sound big and impactful. Today I'm going to be showing you the steps on how to use a limiter properly when mastering your music. Hey, how's it going? My name is Zach. Hope everyone is doing well today. Before we actually get into any demonstration, let's try to understand what a limiter actually does. A limiter is essentially just a compressor that has a very, very large ratio. Think of a limiter as an elevator taking you to the very top of a ceiling where there's a brick wall. As the elevator increases, think of this as your level increases on your track. As you increase the overall level, you'll get closer to that ceiling where there may be some gain reduction. If you were to take the elevator any higher past the roof, there would be some damage that would occur. This is what can happen when you use a limiter too excessively just in order to try to get your track to sound loud. Alright guys, I've got my session over here with a song that I worked on a little while ago. And before we even put any limiters on this track, we want to create a master fader that has a VU meter on it. First and foremost, you want to trust your ears, and that will be making the final call on anything that you do. The visual of a meter is just there to help reassure what you're doing, and it's just to be a guideline. It's not going to make the final call at the end of the day. All right, so let's pull up this VU meter over here on our master fader. We're going to set the reference point to -10. This is a pretty good starting point for most mastering for digital streaming like Spotify. Ultimately, we're going to want the needle over here to be jumping back and forth around 0 VU. Let's see where this track stands on our VU meter. So it was around 7 to 5 on the VU meter. So if we need to get it to 0, we're looking at around 7 to 5 dB increase on our overall level. In most cases, what you're going to want to do is listen to the loudest section of the song, which will give you the best representation on how far you need to go with your limiter. All right, so now that we kind of have an idea of how much dBs we need to increase this by, let's actually open up the limiter over here. So I've got a stock limiter that Pro Tools includes called Maxim. Every DAW has their own free version. They all do the exact same thing. There's two controls that we're going to be working with, the threshold and ceiling. Let's start with the ceiling first. We're going to set this to -1, and the reason for that is most streaming services prefer that you do this in order to get rid of any chances of extra distortion when they do all their crazy conversions behind the scenes when you've already uploaded the track. Then we have the threshold over here, which is what we're going to slowly bring down, and we're going to start to notice it's going to get a little louder, and we'll see the VU meter get closer to 0. Let's see how far we need to take it until it gets to that point. So just like we thought, it was around 7 dBs, and it was, touching around 0 VU for the majority of the time. So right there, we've pretty much hit our target level without any, major problems. What we need to look at first now, though, is this guy over here, the attenuation meter. At the most, it was doing 2 dBs of gain reduction, which in most mastering scenarios, that's not that bad. All that means is that it's just clipping off just the very random little peaks here and there that come and go. What you don't want to do is have this guy do all the heavy lifting and have constant gain reduction just in order to get to your target level. Let's take a look and listen what that would actually sound like to your track. For these purposes, I'm going to go ahead and link these two controls just so that we don't blow our ears out and don't make it overly crazy loud where you're going to have to rip off your headphones. So let's take a listen what that would sound like. That sounds way different than what we had started with, and it sounds like it's just been mangled. I mean, take a look over here. We have around 10.5
total dB of reduction, and you saw that the meter over there was constantly pumping back and forth. That is just not what we want. You can tell it just sounds very crunched and just distorted and just filthy. You know, that's not really what we're trying to get at from this tool. Think of the elevator analogy that we talked about earlier. What we don't want is to have us get so close to the ceiling where our body is getting whacked off. We just want maybe a random hair or two to get clipped off, and then we'll stay intact, right? And we'll still be plenty loud. All right, so let's bring it back to where we had it before, and let's hear what it was sounding like. Still sounds plenty loud. At the most, we were doing just under 2 dBs of gain reduction for those little random peaks that came out.